At first, no one noticed. Then hospitals reported something strange, not a virus, not a disaster, just numbers. That didn't make sense. Billions, becoming trillions, cockroaches appearing everywhere, inside walls, inside food, inside places that were supposed to be sterile. And then the number was confirmed. 100 trillion, and still rising. Reports showed sudden increases, insect-related, contamination, far beyond anything previously recorded. At first it seemed small, just a few cockroaches. They started appearing more frequently in kitchens, storage rooms, and, those quiet corners of buildings. Nothing out of the ordinary. Cockroaches had always existed alongside humans. They were known for their resilience, their ability to survive in harsh conditions, and, their habit of hiding in places people rarely looked. But there was something about this situation that felt different. The frequency of sightings began to increase, not gradually but rapidly. Reports started coming in from multiple locations at once, different cities, different countries, completely different climates, and yet the same pattern was repeating everywhere. Restaurants, they were among the first to respond. Health inspectors began shutting down kitchens at an unusual rate. Food storage facilities reported widespread contamination. Entire shipments of food had to be destroyed because, they could no longer be considered safe. Supermarkets soon followed. Shelves began to empty, not because of panic buying, but because food could not be stored or protected effectively. Even sealed containers were being compromised. The problem was no longer local, it was global. Scientists quickly began investigating what could be causing such a sudden and widespread increase. Cockroaches were already one of the most adaptable species on Earth. They could survive extreme temperatures, endure high levels of radiation, and go for long periods without food. But their populations had always been limited by natural factors such as predators, environmental conditions, and competition for resources. Now, those limits were failing. Reproduction rates began to increase and, dramatically. A single female cockroach could already produce hundreds of offspring, but now those numbers were multiplying at an unprecedented rate. Eggs were hatching faster and survival rates were higher than ever before. Entire generations were appearing in a fraction of the usual time. Predators could not keep up. Birds, reptiles, and small mammals were overwhelmed by the sheer number of cockroaches. The natural balance of ecosystems began to collapse. What had once been a controlled system started shifting into something unstable and, honestly, unpredictable. Despite intensive research, scientists could not identify a clear cause. There was no confirmed mutation, no chemical trigger, and no environmental anomaly. The only consistent observation was that cockroaches were adapting, and they were doing it at a scale humanity had never seen before. Urban environments became the center of the problem. Cities provided ideal conditions, warmth, shelter, and a constant supply of food. Underground spaces, such as sewer systems, turned into massive breeding grounds. Walls, floors, and hidden structures became nesting areas. The infestation spread into every part of the built environment. Infrastructure began to suffer. Cockroaches entered electrical systems, causing short circuits and equipment failures. Power outages became more frequent. Communication systems started to weaken. Maintenance crews struggled to keep up with the damage. The systems that supported modern life were slow, being disrupted. At first, people tried to respond. They cleaned more frequently, sealed entry points, and used chemical treatments to control the infestation. But these efforts quickly proved ineffective. The population growth was simply too fast. Every attempt to reduce their numbers was matched by an even faster increase. Living conditions began to change. Sleep became difficult, as the constant movement of insects could be heard in walls and ceilings. Food could no longer be trusted, and even basic supplies became unreliable. Water systems were questioned, and hygiene standards became nearly impossible to maintain. Hospitals faced a different kind of crisis. They were not overwhelmed by injury or disease, but by contamination. Sterile environments could no longer remain sterile. Medical equipment became compromised, and infection risks increased. The problem was not a direct attack, but the spread of bacteria and carried by cockroaches moving between surfaces. Fear became a constant presence. People no longer felt safe in their own homes. Daily routines were disrupted, and anxiety began to spread as quickly as the infestation itself. Governments responded by activating emergency protocols. Containment zones were established, and, large-scale treatment efforts were launched. However, something unexpected happened. The cockroaches adapted again. Chemical treatments that were initially effective began to lose their impact. Resistance developed quickly, and methods that once worked became useless. The population continued to grow at an uncontrollable rate. At this point, scientists confirmed the scale of the situation. The global cockroach population had reached approximately 100 trillion, and even that number continued to rise. At such a scale, control was no longer possible. The problem had moved beyond management and into something far more permanent. The balance of Earth began to shift. Human systems started to weaken under pressure. Food production struggled, supply chains broke down, and urban life became increasingly unstable. Meanwhile, cockroaches continued to expand into every available environment. They spread above ground and below ground. They occupied natural spaces and human-made structures like they were no longer limited to hidden areas. They had become a dominant presence in the environment. What made the situation more unsettling was that this was not an invasion. Cockroaches were not attacking or replacing humanity through force. They were simply thriving in conditions that had changed in their favor. They were adapting faster than humans could respond. As their numbers increased, human influence over the environment decreased. Control was not lost in a single moment, but gradually, through a continuous shift. Systems failed, responses weakened, and the balance moved away from human dominance. Eventually, one realization became impossible to ignore, and the world had not ended. It had simply changed. It was still functioning, still active, still alive, but it was no longer designed for human control. Instead, it had become a system where survival favored something else, something far older, far more adaptable, and far more resilient. And in that new balance, cockroaches were no longer just a background presence. They were dominant.
I'll be back.